The e-meter would be fine now. The e-meter was invented by a Volney Matheson about 1951. He was a chiropractor in Los Angeles, and he had been using it on his own and selling it on his own, and then brought it to my father, and for a short time through 51 and 52 we used his e-meter, but he would not let my father manufacture it, and my father also demanded royalties and a piece of the action concerning its manufacture and sale. So then, through the 51, 52 era, and I think possibly even into 53, we were having to purchase the e-meter through Volney Matheson. And but what happened here? It was used in early Dianetic auditing, but when Volney would not turn the rights to the e-meter over to my father or give him a royalty, my father quit using it. And there was a time period in there in which he, quote, invented and created various Scientology processes which did not require the e-meter. Then later we were a Don breeding in Washington, D.C., I think in 1954, 55, a Don breeding and Joe Wallace together our own e-meter, and all of a sudden Scientology could now use e-meters again, and he invented other processes which could be used with the e-meter. It was a flow and ebb thing. I think I want to make this point very clear, that as long as my father had some control over the e-meter in the beginning, then it was used in Dianetics and Scientology. When he got into a war with Volney over money, and we couldn't shake the e-meter out of Volney's hands, then we quit using the e-meter, and then when we invented, when Joe Wallace and Don Breeding in the mid-50s in Washington, D.C., he manufactured, those two guys manufactured the e-meter in the basement of our headquarters at that time, which was 1812 19th Street Northwest. And then it became popular. It depended upon his control of it, of the instrument.
Did Mr. Wallace improve upon the e-meter, redesign it, or did he reinvent the mousetrap?
Joe Wallace and Don Breeding made it solid state. Before that, the e-meter was a tube affair with a lot of vacuum tubes, and it was fairly good sized. It was about the size of, I don't mean this as a joke, it was about the size of a bread box. And then it also got to be great big projection jobs. And Volney kept getting more and more complicated. There were e-meters with double dials, with 4 dials, with enough switches and dials on it to confuse you for a week. But, and they got to the point, there were a few of them that were about 2 feet by a foot by, say, 18 inches tall. And it got to weighing maybe 10 or 15 pounds, which was kind of hard to lug around from one session to another, one auditing session to another.
Is the e-meter a deeply religious symbol? If it is, I don't want to go into it any further. Or is it used for other reasons, like a crucifix, maybe?
Well, I'm testifying to the early days prior to, I believe, a court decision where it is now become a religious artifact, but in those days it was not. So I leave that to your decision as far as to continue with it. But it was an E-meter was basically a skin galvanometer, a lie detector, and it would be technically called a balanced wheat-stone bridge, which is a very simple, basic electronic circuit. One of the main things that I used to remember about the E-meter was that our favorite electrodes, which we would hold on to, was Campbell soup cans, and Campbell soup probably made a great deal of money from us. But there's a small, very small, at those days anyway, particularly the ones that plugged into the wall. Today they're battery powered, and the one that was designed and built in the mid-50s was battery powered. But the ones that plugged in the wall had a tendency to, because of the amount of very microscopic electrical flow through it, electroplate your hands. That is, that the tin covering or the metal covering of the Campbell soup cans would come off in your hands, and so your hands smelled pretty weird most of the time. Yeah. So anyhow, that kind of covers the E-meter. But as I said, the point I wanted to make about the E-meter here is that it ran hot and cold with Dad, depending upon his control of it. He would say, like, well, we don't need the E-meter anymore because we have these new, great, wonderful processes and techniques which don't require the E-meter. He said that is because he couldn't use the E-meter because Wally Matheson wouldn't cough it up.
Back to the E-meter, did the U.S. National Bureau of Standards describe the E-meter as worthless as a diagnostic service?
Yes, the FDA were concerned with the E-meter because it was being used as a diagnostic tool, which in fact was true. I mean, an actual practice.